Joshua and the sun standing still. The land of Canaan trembled under the march of Israel. The people of God had crossed the Jordan, watched the walls of Jericho collapse, and seen city after city fall by the hand of the Almighty. Their presence was no longer a whisper, but a thunderous reality that shook the hearts of kings and nations. Among those kings were the rulers of the southern cities, who saw the alliance between Israel and the city of Gibeon as a threat too great to ignore. Gibeon was a great city, larger than many of the royal cities, and its warriors were known for their strength, yet the Gibeonites had chosen not to resist Israel. They had heard of the mighty acts of the Lord, how he dried the Red Sea and struck down kings, and they chose to make peace with Joshua. Their covenant with Israel angered the surrounding kings, who viewed it as betrayal. Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, gathered allies to himself. He sent word to Hoham, king of Hebron, Piram, king of Jarmuth, Japhia, king of Lachish, and Debir, king of Eglon. Together they formed a coalition, determined to punish Gibeon for aligning with Israel. Their armies marched swiftly, laying siege to Gibeon, hoping to crush it before Israel could intervene. The men of Gibeon, terrified, sent messengers to Joshua at Gilgal. "Do not abandon your servants," they pleaded. "Come quickly, save us and help us, for all the kings of the Amorites have joined forces against us." Joshua heard their cry and did not hesitate. He gathered his fighting men, his bravest warriors, and prepared for a night march through rugged terrain. The Lord spoke to Joshua as they set out. "Do not be afraid of them, for I have given them into your hand. Not one of them will be able to stand against you." With this promise burning in his heart, Joshua led the army of Israel through the night, approaching Gibeon by dawn. The enemy did not expect such boldness. At the break of day, Israel fell upon them with the surprise of thunder. The Amorite armies reeled under the sudden attack, their lines broken by the ferocity of Israel's charge. Panic swept through their ranks as they fled from Gibeon toward the road of Beth-horon. As they ran, the heavens themselves fought for Israel. The Lord hurled down great hailstones from the sky, striking the enemy with devastating force. More died from the hail than by the sword of Israel. The battlefield was drenched in chaos, thunder echoing, hail pounding, swords flashing in the morning light. Joshua saw the fleeing armies stretched across the hills, and his heart was seized with urgency. The day was passing, the sun climbing higher, and he knew there would not be enough daylight to finish the victory. His enemies were scattered, but not yet destroyed, and if night fell, they would escape into the cover of darkness. With unshakable faith, Joshua lifted his voice to heaven in the sight of Israel. His words were not whispered in secret, but proclaimed for all to hear. "Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and moon over the valley of Aijalon." His command was not to nature itself, but a prayer of bold trust in the God who rules over creation. And the impossible happened. The sun halted in the sky, and the moon stood in its place until the nation had avenged itself on its enemies. Time itself bowed to the command of the Almighty, extending the day so that Israel could complete the victory. The battlefield glowed under the still sun as Israel pressed the attack. The Amorites, struck with terror, were cut down without mercy. Their cries echoed through the valleys as the relentless hand of judgment pursued them. Every sword stroke testified that the God of Israel fought for his people. Never before and never again was there a day like that, when the Lord listened to the voice of a man and altered the very course of the heavens. The sun did not set until Israel's enemies were utterly defeated. The land lay silent as twilight finally came, not by the normal passage of time, but by the will of the Creator. The 5 kings who had led the coalition fled the battlefield and hid in a cave at Makkedah. Word reached Joshua, and he ordered the entrance sealed with large stones while the pursuit continued. Israel struck down the remainder of the armies, leaving none to regroup or rise against them again. When the land was secure, Joshua commanded the cave be opened, and the 5 kings were brought before him. They stood trembling, the pride of their crowns gone, the weight of their defeat heavy upon them. Joshua summoned the leaders of Israel and told them to place their feet on the necks of the kings, a symbol of God's victory over the nations. "Do not be afraid or discouraged," Joshua declared. "Be strong and courageous, for this is what the Lord will do to all your enemies." The kings were executed, and their bodies hung on trees until evening. At sunset, they were taken down and thrown back into the cave where they had hidden, sealed beneath stones that remained as a monument to their downfall. The message was clear. Rebellion against the God of Israel ends in ruin. Israel continued its campaign, striking city after city, capturing Makkedah, Libnah, Lachish, Eglon, Hebron, and Debir. Each conquest was a testimony to the power of God, who fought for his people and delivered their enemies into their hands. Fear spread throughout the land, for none could stand against Joshua and the armies of Israel. The story of the sun standing still was told throughout the generations. It was not merely a tale of military triumph, but of divine intervention. The God of heaven and earth had shown his sovereignty over creation itself to fulfill his promise to his people. For Israel, the lesson was unforgettable. Victory was not won by their swords or their strength, but by obedience to the word of the Lord. Joshua's prayer revealed the boldness of faith, daring to ask for the impossible and witnessing the hand of God move in ways beyond human comprehension. The sun standing still over Gibeon became a symbol of God's unstoppable power. It reminded Israel that when God is for them, no force in heaven or earth can prevail against them. Time itself, the most constant of measures, could be bent by the Creator for the sake of his covenant. Generations would look back and find courage in this story. Leaders, prophets, and kings would remember how God answered Joshua's cry, knowing that the same God who held the sun in place holds the future of his people. The faith of Joshua shone like the sun itself, unwavering and radiant. The silence of that day, with the sun unmoving, echoed louder than the clash of swords. It was the silence of heaven testifying that God reigns over all. And when the battle was done, when the dust settled and the cries faded, Israel stood victorious, their hearts filled with awe and reverence. Joshua himself would never forget. He had seen rivers part, walls fall, and manna feed the people. But to witness the sun obey the command of God through his prayer was a wonder beyond measure. It confirmed that the Lord was not distant, but near, attentive to the cries of his servant. And so the land of Canaan continued to fall before Israel, not because of their might, but because of the faithfulness of the Lord. The sun set again, the moon resumed its course, and time flowed, as it always had. But for one day, all of creation paused to bear witness to the power of God and the boldness of a man who trusted him completely. The story of Joshua and the sun standing still endures as one of the greatest testimonies of faith in Scripture. It calls every believer to trust in God's promises, to pray with boldness, and to know that nothing is impossible for the Lord who made the heavens and the earth.